Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for our Wednesday nutrition chat with Nutrena. I'm here hanging out with Annie and Brian from Nutrena. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick?
Yeah, so I'm Brian. I am your Nutrena rep, covering every one of the coastal stores with the exception of Yakima and Wenatchee. So really covering all the best. I've been with Cargill now for a little over a year and super excited to be here today.
Hi everyone, I am Annie. I am the Nutrena rep for obviously the best of the best, the Yakima and East Wenatchee area. I've been with Cargill. This is my fourth year with them. I'm pretty excited to talk to you guys today, and yeah, hopefully we can teach you something new, and it'll be a great Wednesday evening.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, you guys. We are excited to have you. If you have tuned in to one of our previous Wednesday evening chats, you know that we talk all things nutrition. We talk pet, livestock, we talk all about feed, what makes the Nutrena feed so fantastic. And today we're going to talk about something that no matter if you have a furry friend that lives in your house or a field full of livestock, it is going to apply to you. So today, we are talking all about food storage, how you store feed for your animals, all the ins and outs, tips, tricks, all of that. So, Brian, why don't you go ahead and take it away, and let's start off with talking about livestock feed.
Yeah, so when you're looking at livestock feed storage, the most important things are for your feed to be somewhere cool and dry. So yes, our bags have that beautiful like plasticky coating to them, but that does not make them waterproof. Please don't store them outside. Also, if we have the ability to raise them off the ground a bit to help let things breathe, a lot of feed rooms will use pallets to do this. Anything that you can to get it up off of the ground so that you can get airflow below it and on top of it. That will help prevent condensation, just so that you're really not letting that feed get wet, right? Because wet feed becomes moldy feed really, really quickly. And that's for when you're storing them in the bags. A lot of people will dump them out of the bags, in which case we would recommend a heavy duty plastic container that seals really, really tightly because you want to keep it away from rodents, because you're feeding enough people, you're feeding enough animals as it is, right? You don't need to feed any extra freeloaders that are just there to steal from you.
Right.
So
true.
the tighter the lid, the better. And try and dump that as you need it. Meaning don't empty 20 bags all at one time. Like, you know how much feed you're going to go through in a reasonable period of time. If that's 2 bags for you, if that's 3 bags for you, make sure that you're using everything that you have dumped before you're dumping more. You don't want to dump fresh feed on top of old feed, because if you end up with a problem, then you've ruined everything in that container. And feed is not cheap. So let's make sure that we're using your dollars the most intelligent way we can. Um, so make sure that you use everything in your container first before you dump into it. Also, when you're dumping, the bottom of your bag has a little white, most of the time white, sometimes it's colored, feed tag, right? Rip that off of your tag and put it somewhere so that you know this bag is that tag. And as you're done with the bag, you can get rid of it and put up the next tag. Because if there is any type of issue where you need to call a feed store, coastal, or you need to call us, the first thing we're going to ask for is the information on that tag. And if you say you don't have it, there's not but so much that we can do to track it down. That feed tag has the date in which the feed was made, and it has all of its tracking information. So from that tag, I can tell you what truck that feed bag was on, what plant it came out of. Like, I can track it all the way back. So if I don't have any of that information, I don't know where anything went wrong. So as you dump it, rip off that tag and post it and keep it somewhere that you know it's going to be safe.
Awesome. Great tip. I mean, I always, store in an airtight container, dump out my bag, but I actually have never thought about saving my tags. So once again, I learned something new, as I always do on these chats. So thank you, Brian. That's a great tip. I'm going to start saving my tags now.
There you go. Yeah, it's
There we
super
go.
important. And you would only need it if something went wrong. So we all hope that you never need it. Like that's the goal. The goal is for you to never need it. Also, I should
so far
add,
I've never needed it, so I guess that's good news. But
that's great news. I should add that if you ever question the smell of the feed in your tub, if you ever think you see mold, best bet is just to not feed it. Like, let's just roll on, get a new bag of feed, call us if you think that it's happened too soon or something like that. But if you feel there's any question about your feed, don't feed it.
Great tip. Love it. All right, Annie, you're going to talk to us a little bit about storing pet feed, correct?
Absolutely. And like with Brian had covered like kind of the same, tips of the trade, right? We want dry, we want cool, all of those things. But, buying bulk food, whether it is livestock feed or pet food, dog food, right? Sometimes Coastal has those awesome sales and you're like, oh, I'm going to, stock up and because I'm going to save a lot of money. And dog food and cat food actually has a pretty long shelf life. But we just need to make sure that when you're buying, it is a good way to save money, but we don't need to stock up for a year just because we want to make sure that they're getting, your pet is getting the best nutrition possible, right? We just want to make sure that, it's not going to lose anything or anything like that. So like Brian had said with livestock feed, there's a tag on the bag, right? You can tear it off and it has everything we need. Pet food, on the other hand, most pet food information is on the bag. The bag itself, usually it's kind of scanned, printed on there, or there's a spot that it'll have an expiration date on the pet food bag, whereas livestock feed has a made by date, manufacture date. Sometimes they'll have best by date, so pet food, on the other hand, usually has best by or expiration date. But if you dump your dog food or cat food into a container and throw the bag away, just like Brian was saying, you lose the lot code, you lose the expiration date. Most of the time, hopefully that's not a problem, right? You don't need it, there's no issues. But just in case there is, that bag's in the trash, usually we sometimes have our hands tied as manufacturers, whoever it is, right? So making sure you check the packaging too, when you're buying in bulk or anything, even write it down if you have a spot, or if you can store your pet food in the bag. Our pet food bags are made to kind of keep the freshness as fresh as possible, because it has that long date and shelf life, that if you store that pet food in the bag in a container, it kind of helps keep the oils and everything in there kind of the same consistency. It's kind of been in that bag. I store my dog food in a metal container in the bag, cut it open. And then also too, it kind of helps me prevent, I make sure I'm finishing that bag completely. I'm not dumping new feed on top of old feed or anything like that. Some dog foods and cat foods, the plastic containers, sometimes they're great. Don't get me wrong, fantastic storage. Sometimes if you're pouring that into a new plastic container, it can kind of change that taste and smell. Palatability might be kind of an issue sometimes. So maybe if you bought a brand new big container, myself, I got a new puppy. He's on his own food. And so he's a large breed. So I got a big bag, right? Because I'm going to go through a lot of puppy food. And so knowing I bought a new container, that container itself smelled new, right? It's a plastic container, this one is. And so it smells like new plastic. So I made sure I hosed it out with little Dawn, right? Think of Tupperware for people, right? Brand new Tupperware sometimes has that smell. And I stored his dog food bag in this container. So hopefully it's not going to change the taste or smell of his puppy food at all. And so we're not going to have any palatability issues. But another big thing to talk about is, like Brian said, keeping it where it's cool and dry, where it's not going to overheat. less than 100 degrees, right? If we can, as much as possible, because we don't want any of those ingredients to, at accelerated rate, to decompose, right? And sometimes at a high temperature, it can do that. Or sometimes, like Brian said, condensation, or it'll sweat, which that will cause mold or smelly issues, anything like that. So it should always be stored, if you can, off the floor, give some air, but also from rodents or any other critters you don't need to feed. But those are some of the key things. But just when you're buying, if you're going to buy bulk, making sure you're checking the packaging, making sure if there's any damaged bags where maybe there's a slight hole where moisture could have got in or anything like that. Making sure you're checking the bags is key, and you're making sure you're going to keep that food as the best storage possible for as long as you need it to be. But what also too, I wanted to touch on, whether it's horses, Meg, I know you have horses, I do too, dogs, everything, even chickens, anything like that, making sure you take once a week or every couple weeks, you're cleaning those tubs out. Dog food bowls, chicken feed, take a good rinse to them, scrub them. Sometimes things get built up, and the next thing you know, you're like, wow, that's been on the bowl for I don't know how long. But dog food, especially, if you're going to use some canned food too, maybe you either have a dog that can eat hard kibble, or you like to do a little treat every now and then on top to mix in, making sure you're cleaning those dog food bowls and cat food bowls frequently enough that you're kind of getting anything old off of there, so it's not getting anything crummy or anything like that. But yeah, with that, I mean, pretty plain and simple, but making sure we're keeping your guys' food stored correctly to make sure it's going to last as long as possible and be solid nutrition for your pets.
Yeah, and going on to what Annie was saying, so I live in a very, very small apartment in Seattle. So I don't have room to have like a tub for my dog's dog food. So I have a little plastic container that fits under the sink, right? And because of that, I take a picture of that spot on the bag and save it onto my computer. And that allows me to do a couple of things. So like if something were to go wrong, I have expiration dates, I have lot numbers, I have all of those things. But it also actually lets me keep track of how long bags are lasting me, because I just have a little dog, like he's a Boston Terrier. And if you buy a 30-pound bag of dog food for a 20-pound dog, like it lasts so long that it's hard to track. So it's helped me do those two things together. Just an idea.
Awesome. Great tips. You guys are full of fantastic ideas tonight. I absolutely love it. And Annie, congratulations on the new puppy. He might have to make a little debut one of these nights.
We will have to. Wally would love to say hello. He is currently outside in the snow. So he's having fun. I actually can see him out there. So he definitely is enjoying that. But yes, Wally, next time we'll definitely have to make an appearance.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. Well, thank you for hanging out with us tonight, you guys. To everyone watching us live tonight, thank you so much for just spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next time.